All right, we have made it to our final section in Chapter 7, and this is the grand finale. We are going to be factoring polynomials completely, and completely is the key word here because it's not just going to be two parentheses, as you'll see. So that is going to be our key word here. Two types of factoring we're going to do. The first thing we're going to look at is factoring by grouping. And so if you look at this first example here, it looks different, right? There's parentheses in it. And you can see we basically have two terms here. And this is going to be like at the beginning of this second half of the chapter when we were looking for the greatest common factor. And so I think you'll notice that this right here, that parenthesis is a greatest common factor. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide each part by that greatest common factor, and we're going to bring that greatest common factor out. Well, if we take that out, then what's left is 3x plus 5. So 3x plus 5, and there we go. That is now completely factored into parentheses. Now we're going to use this factoring by grouping when we have something that looks like this. So notice here, this doesn't look like anything we've seen before because it has 4 terms. And 4 terms is something different. So when you have 4 terms, what we're going to do is we're going to look at it as 2 parts. Part 1 and part 2. So from part 1, from the x cubed plus 3x squared, we're going to take out the greatest common factor. So for that part, the greatest common factor would be x squared, and what's left is x plus 3. Now we're going to do plus. Now in this second part right here, in the 2x plus 6, we're going to take out the greatest common factor. And we're going to write what's left. Now, when you do factoring by grouping, that is, we look at the first 2 terms first, and then the last 2 terms second, you should see this common parenthesis. If you do not get a common parenthesis, you did something wrong, and it's not going to work. So make sure you find that common parenthesis. Then, just like above, we're going to take that common parenthesis out. Once we take it out, what's going to be left is x squared plus 2. And that's it. You cannot factor that. That's it. Trust me. So that's going to be your final answer. Try this one on your own. Pause it and then push play when you're done. We're going to go through this together. Now, first thing we need to do here is rearrange. We need to rearrange so that it's in standard form. So that's going to be 3p cubed minus 5p squared plus 18p minus 30. Remember, whatever's in front of the number stays in front of the number. Now we're going to look at those 2, then those 2. So looking at the first 2 terms, all that's in common is p squared. That's going to leave us with 3p minus 5. Plus, what's in common here is 6. When we divide everything by 6, we're going to get 3p minus 5. Again, that better be the same. So now we can take that out, the parenthesis out, and what's left is p squared plus 6, and we are done. So when you see 4 terms, you need to do that factoring by grouping. Make sure it's in standard form first, but that's how we're going to approach those. The last thing we're going to do today is factoring completely. So everything we've done with regard to the 2 parentheses has been only 2 parentheses. But anytime you're given a problem, you should always look at it like we initially looked at the problems from this half of the chapter, and that is there a greatest common factor first? So number 1, you always look for a greatest common factor, okay? Then we look for one or two parentheses, well, two parentheses, I guess, two parentheses. But first, you always check for greatest common factor. So as we look at this first one here, we do have a greatest common factor, and our greatest common factor would be 3x. So we're going to divide everything by 3x, and what's left is going to be x squared plus 2x minus 6. So now we're not done yet. That was part one. Now part two is, can we break this part here now into two parentheses so that 3x stays in front, and then now we're going to break what's left up into two parentheses. So let's see, x, oh no. I think we have a problem, Houston. Oh, that's right. I fixed this. That's right. I updated it. There was a typo. This should be 15. Oops, I just remembered that. So if that's the case, let me fix this. Remember, next year I'm going to be perfect. Next year it will say 15. So there we go. Now it works. So this is going to be x plus 6, x minus 1. And now we are good to go. This next one, similar. First, is there a greatest common factor? Yes, it is 7x squared. So we're going to divide everything by 7x squared. And that's going to leave us with x squared minus 4. Now that is one of our special products we learned yesterday. So that's going to be x plus 2, x minus 2. And there we go, factored completely. Last two examples. Always look for greatest common factor first. So we do have a greatest common factor of c. So we're going to divide everything by c, and we're going to write what we have left. C squared minus 7c plus 12. It still equals 0. Now we're solving, if you didn't notice. So now we're going to keep that c out front. Now we're going to break that big parenthesis into two small parentheses. So that's going to be, let's see, c minus 3, c minus 4. So now, remember, since we're solving, we're going to, each term, we're going to set equal to 0. So we have three answers here. C can be 0, that's for this first part, 3, or 4. Finally, greatest common factor, 2x. 2x. That's going to leave us with x squared minus 25. And then that's going to give us x plus 5, x minus 5. Setting each term equal to 0, we're going to get x equals 0, negative 5, and positive 5. So that's it. You did it. We finished the chapter. Today, as you can see, well, the factoring by grouping was new, but this last part, factoring completely, we're combining all the skills we learned in this chapter. First, looking for greatest common factor and taking that out, then factoring into two parentheses.